Today I'm joined by Chief Executive of BIGGA, that is Jim Croxton, and the Event Director for the GroundsFest show, which is Chris Bassett. Morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Martin.
Morning, Martin.
Well, thanks for joining us. There's an announcement that you guys have got to make. So, Jim, why don't you tell us what that announcement is, please?
Yeah, certainly. The announcement is that GroundsFest and ourselves at BIGGA are going to collaborate together, particularly on our two events, BTME and GroundsFest, but also around the whole year. Our event, BTME, has been in a real good growth, I think, because events are becoming more and more important to our industry, all of our associated industries. That this, our members and your visitors all work pretty much in remote ways alone. Coming together seems to be hugely important, not just for networking, but for the education and understanding our industry. So we're looking to try and see if there's ways in which we can improve our event. And in conversation with Chris and his team at GroundsFest, in fact, we've been in discussion since before their first event. We feel that the two events are very, very complementary. They do two very different things. We're indoors in the winter. They're very much outdoors and pretty near the summer, so there's a lot of sort of complementary nature to that, but also that we have a huge audience from greenkeeping and golf. I think that audience probably not as big at GroundsFest, but equally their audience in particularly the landscaping area is something that we've historically struggled with a little bit at BTME. So we're looking to see if we can't add two and two together and get five by putting some work into each other's event where we can try and bring some better value to our exhibitors.
Chris, what does GroundsFest get from this then?
Well, we're hoping to obviously work with, we'll be working with BIGGA on a number of education initiatives as well. But obviously, we wanted to tap into obviously the golf market as well to attract more exhibitors, more visitors from the greenkeeping fraternity, course managers, etc. We're going to be running some education in partnership with BIGGA at the show, but also wider across the rest of the 12 months of the year. We're going to be working on some initiatives together, which you'll hear about over the next sort of couple of weeks as well.
Okay, so can you give me a little bit of a flavour of what those initiatives are, Chris?
Well, we're going to be working on obviously trying to attract more people into the industry through careers days and things like that, but also there's a real appetite for both organisations to be working together to provide sort of education for the industry as well. So that will obviously, we've started with Brad on the GroundsFest Academy now. So he'll be working with Jim and the wider BIGGA team on putting the education side of that together over the next few weeks.
Okay, so do you have firm plans, or are you just and you're just being coy, or are they plans that you're still kind of pulling together?
No, I think they're plans that we're just sort of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on what that looks like at the moment. You will see a bigger presence at GroundsFest this year, that they have stand, but also they're going to be running some of our education seminars on one of our theatres as well. So that's set in stone, although we're sort of just discussing what subjects are going to be covered on those or what topics. But across the rest of the year, then that's still to sort of take place in terms of the final preparations for that.
Okay.
Can I just jump in there, Martin, to say that
Yeah.
on top of that, one of the beauties of us getting involved in GroundsFest from our perspective, Harrogate's a brilliant event. You come every year and we appreciate that. But there are things we can't do there. We can't go outdoors unless we get an incredibly good third week of January piece of weather. We can't showcase the profession in the way that we're able to do if we can get outdoors in September and if the weather plays ball at Stony Park. So one area we're going to work on for definite at GroundsFest will probably be where we would kind of debut this, but hopefully in events across the year is about demonstrating the profession to people that are not currently in it. So certainly young people, you'll be aware of the work we've done with First Green. Our First Green initiative is sort of into its second year, going really, really well. And one of the things we're seeing this year is an appetite to take that into different environments. So not just on golf courses, can we attract people into sort of outdoor work, land-based work in a broader way? And so somebody might come to GroundsFest and be very taken by, you know, the sort of more heavy machinery world, you know, the sort of landscaping, digging and all that stuff. But some might be taken by the real fine detail that you get from the agronomy side. So we'll be looking to put together events at GroundsFest around attracting people into the career. And then the ongoing partnership is around finding areas of common ground, which, if I'm honest, Martin, you know, I've been to some of your events over the years, and thank you for the continued invitations. You know, we are a broad industry. We very much spend a lot of our time working in our greenkeeping silo, but we have so many things in common with sports turf, with landscaping, and across the turf business, the name of your own organization, that where we can collaborate, I'm hoping this is the start of wider collaborations around the rest of the industry too.
Jim, one thing that strikes me is why GroundsFest as a strategic partnership? Why not do more with the GMA?
Well, I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive. To be honest, Martin, we've you know, I maintain a very strong relationship with Jeff in particular. We've always worked alongside the GMA very well. We attend their show, they attend ours. We have quite a few members in common. So this is not to the detriment of anything else. And one of the things that when Chris and I really started discussing in detail was we felt this was a win-win with no negative. I don't see it having any sort of detraction to any other event or organization, because the shows are so very different and because we're trying to do right by the industry. I feel that our motives, if you like, are sort of sound and positive. One thing that's been interesting, and I think you and I have discussed this perhaps in the past, Martin, maybe even privately, is outwardly the two organizations, BIGGA and the GMA, look very similar. You know, we're an organization for golf greenkeepers. They're an organization very much for sports turf grounds maintenance. But the way we go about our businesses are very, very different. They're very focused, and I think this works for them. I think it's been hugely positive. But they're very focused on pitch improvement. Their big program with it, where all the revenue comes in from the sports, is very much about the facility. We're naturally a much more people-focused organization. We're about the greenkeepers. There are other organizations in golf that can look after the facility necessarily. We look after the people that manage that facility. So when we've tried to find real common ground with the GMA, it's not been impossible. We've done a few little bits together, but it's difficult. The two organizations don't overlap that easily. And in terms of working in terms of common ground with shows, I think that just feels a little harder because the two shows are so very similar in their type. Whereas to work with Chris and the team at GroundsFest is this incredibly sort of complementary situation where they've got, you know, their show is almost opposite to ours in all elements of it. So if we can improve theirs, they can improve ours. That somehow seems a full win-win.
You must like the concept as well, because obviously Festival of Turf was something that I mean, a really nice day or a couple of days, yeah. Timing, not great, I think, and you suffered because of pandemic. But you know, is this a little bit of you going, yeah, I like that concept. I'd really like to, you know, continue that?
Yeah, we came away from Festival of Turf with a whole range of mixed emotions because, you know, in simple terms, we put on a really great event, but not very many people came. Now that's what happens in business. You know, you sometimes you get things. I think we were a bit unlucky on timing, but we were reasonably comfortable that the concept could work. I know that Chris and his team were pretty gutted that we did it because they thought we'd stolen their concept, because unbeknown to us, they were in the background working on a similar thing. We had a big, strong conversation at work with our team and with our board, and we decided that we're a membership organization with an event rather than an events company with a membership. And so to run 2 events a year, we felt was too much for our team. In that particular year, we had no BTME, so we could apply some of our resource at Festival of Turf. We decided we didn't want to do it again, but I remain convinced that, you know, you and I have been attending outdoor shows for a long, long time. And we know that particularly when the sun shines, the members are at their happiest. And you know, there's a real kind of history of our audience getting out and about, looking at machinery in action, chatting to each other under the sunshine, and having either a coffee or an ice cream. And I support it. And I've really enjoyed the 2 GroundsFest events I've attended. I've said to Chris when we were first discussing this partnership that one of the things that surprised me, and forgive me for damning with faint praise, but I was really impressed with how professionally the event was run. I'm an events guy, and the event was put on extremely well, very professional, looked good, looked right. A lot of planning had gone in, and you know, we're a reasonably big brand within our industry. We can't be kind of associate ourselves with something tin pot, but that's very much not the case at GroundsFest. It's a strong event.
Chris, I'll ask a similar question to you that I asked Jim. What, in terms of GroundsFest getting from this, I mean, obviously it expands your audience. Currently, I think you admit that you're doing really well on the landscaping side, which is possibly a surprise given that it started as a grounds show. And maybe you need to bring a few more grounds teams in to get to where you want it to be. Greenkeeping is obviously another area that attracts. Is this a move towards, you know, an ambition for one single show for the market?
No, I think one of the first things that we discussed with Jim and his team as well was that we still think that there's, for obviously the shows be themselves as well, and that never came up in terms of trying to merge the shows or the one show debate. I think Jim's obviously already mentioned that one's or BTME is an indoor winter event. We see ourselves as indoor, obviously with indoor elements, but a predominant outdoor show in the at the end of the summer as well. So those two sort of conversations about merging the shows never came up. While we've got obviously a large landscape audience, we do have a large wider audience as well, from grounds management as well. Obviously we would like more, but what show wouldn't at the end of the day? So yes, we want more landscape, but we also want more sports turf as a whole as well.
Chris, I don't think there's probably a strategic partnership on the table with the GMA or Saltex. Does this mean that you're kind of limited to, if you want to expand in this market, to partnerships with BIGGA?
No, I don't think so. I mean, to work with anybody. We're obviously just announced as due now about our partnership with BIGGA, but we've worked with Bali. That relationship has strengthened even further this year, where they're sponsoring one of the zones and holding their AGM at the show as well. We work with the API, the APL, and BAGMA as well. So we remain open to working with any of the associations within the industry so that we can all pull in the same direction.
So long term, Chris, where do you see this relationship maybe in, say, 5 years' time?
Well, when we first had the discussions over the last couple of years, and it's really sort of taken a different sort of way over the last couple of weeks to formalise the arrangement and the partnership. We see this as a long-term ambition, certainly from promoting on the education side of things, and obviously we want to be helping BIGGA with BTME and broadening their sort of audience, and I know that they want to help us on the opposite side of things as well. So we're both going to be running initiatives at the shows. Hopefully that's going to be over the next few years and not just sort of this year as well. But we have got some big plans in terms of helping each other and the wider industry with initiatives over the next few years as well. So we see this as very much a long-term plan. It's not just going to be over the sort of next 12 months, but that might well take 12 months for everything to sort of be put in place and come to fruition, really. Okay.
Jim, have you got anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, one thing we do know is that, particularly in the events industry, 5 years is a long time. If you think back 5 years from July 25 to July 2020, I think I was just in the process of cancelling BTME for January 2021 due to the pandemic. I didn't know whether we'd have an association in a year's time, let alone 5 years' time. I think I was pretty confident we would, but we were in the process of doing things like reviewing our staff and actually ending up with a smaller team because of financial uncertainty. So, and I've never tried to look beyond 2 to 3 years in terms of the show itself. So I hope that this collaboration is hugely successful and that we're still working together. I think one thing I would say that I'm pretty certain we can have in 5 years' time is a more connected industry. And I think it's taken me a little while, certainly in this post-pandemic era, to get our own house in order. We're almost a completely new business in 25 to what we were in 2020. We're in better shape. Our golf industry that we serve is much more connected than it was, but it took the pandemic to make that happen. We were probably a bit fragmented before that. There's a load of exciting stuff coming along, which you'll hear about in due course, Martin, around workforce in greenkeeping and how they're now being better supported by golf, which I think is very positive. I hope we can bring some of that learning and some of those results broader in our industry, because whether we like it or not, our industry often feels a bit bottom of the food chain. Without us, whether it's golf courses, sports pitches, landscape areas, whatever it may be, without us, there is a hell of a lot of fun not happening in this world, but that isn't necessarily how the consumer always sees it. So I'm really excited about where we're going in greenkeeping. I'm really hoping that over this next couple of years, we can take those learnings and the learnings that are happening in other areas. For example, Bali do a really good job that Chris is already working with, and see if we can't try and tie those things together. I think bringing people into the industry, I think sustainability, and I think, Martin, you and I have been discussing mental health now for what must be 7 or 8 years. And well done on you and being such an early adopter of that. It hasn't gone away. We've had our own challenges this year with some of our members. So on those areas where we can, I guess, hopefully scale some of the work that we do and we find successful, I think that's where I'd like to be in 5 years' time.
Well, we look forward to seeing how this one plays out, fellas. And no doubt we'll be hearing more from you in a couple of weeks about those other initiatives that are coming through. And we'll keep in touch with you. Good luck with the initiatives, and we'll speak again soon, no doubt.